What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to review Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name. I was able to beat it last night, and let me tell you, I really like this game. We'll go over the positives, we'll go over the negatives, but I think a very simple, like boiling all of the stuff down, this is a classic Yakuza game. If you like what we've gotten so far, and yes, there are definitely some that are better than others. There's some that are very divisive. I look to 6 as one that I actually really liked. I like 6. I know a lot of people didn't, but if you know the structure of these games and you're into them, this game's for you. If you know the structure of these games and you're not into them, the game is not for you. In terms of like breaking it down a little bit and what this game does better or worse than other games, we're going to get into that. So let's start with the visuals. I like to talk about how beautiful. I mean, this game, and really these games just in general, all of these games, they look so good. And this game looks phenomenal. It's great to see it in 2023. It's great to see our man Kiryu back. And I got to be honest, that was a really big elevation, I guess, for this game. As I've talked about, I actually have played the entirety, at least of Yakuza 0 to Yakuza 6. I've played those 7 games in the span of about 6 months. I actually beat 6 back in July or August. So I haven't been away from our man Kiryu for all that long, but it still felt like a reunion. It still felt like, okay, I can imagine this being like for other people 4, 5, 6 years since we've last seen the guy, and that is incredible. He's always been like a legendary character. He still is now. Now I play it with, and I think you can only play it right now with the Japanese voice. He crushes it just like he always does. And without getting into spoilers, let me just tell you, no spoilers for like the ending. There are some emotional freaking parts to this game, and he does things that I've never seen Kiryu really do before, and I think he does it perfect. I feel like there's more layers to this character now beating the game than there was before this game came out, and I owe it to, I guess, the writing. Visuals helped it a little bit in terms of what was going on, and then also just the acting, I think, was absolutely outrageously good. And it's not just Kiryu. The cast, I would say, continues to show that they can do supporting characters. And I've talked about this before, actually, when I've talked about the other Yakuza games. I got afraid when they introduced other characters, like when you play as more than one in like 4 and 5. I was worried because it's like, well, you did so good with Majima and you did so good with Kiryu. Can you do good with other people? And I think there were always good side characters. I would say same thing here. There's some really good side characters. There's some twists, so it's hard to exactly describe like the villain in this game without getting into spoilers, but let me tell you, like the primary endgame villain of this game is also extremely good. It's got the action scenes that you want. So, again, boil down, if you're into the craziness of past Yakuza games, of these like over-the-top action scenes, they're in this game. There's some twists in this game, like there are for many of the others, and I would say a couple of them got me. Some of them didn't, but some of them actually did get me, where it's like, wow, I did not see that one coming, and I think it really helped. I would say overall, the base story of this game is extremely good. Now, I've seen people online saying that this game is what they hoped that 6 was going to be. Now, I actually like the story of 6. Controversially, I liked it. Again, I love like the ending of 6 specifically, but I think the story here is also really good in terms of just the mainline story. Now, why do I say it like that? Well, I will say a weakness with other games shows up here, and I would say it's maybe at its worst here. So while I do love this game, I would say I love it, and I would say, if you've liked the past games, this game is for you. The fluff in this game is kind of unreal, and it's kind of disappointing because you have the normal, extracurricular activities that you can do, and there's a lot, and I actually think a lot of them are pretty high quality. There are a lot of side missions in this game, all in one kind of location. You talk to one girl, she gives you the breakdown of it, you go to your different locations, you complete objectives, and you're done, right? And I did a couple of them. I didn't do many of them actually at all because I was trying to I play these games for the story, okay? I've played a lot of the side stuff in other games of theirs, so it's like, well, I've played darts before, I've played pool before, I don't need to necessarily do it in every single game. The side quests and stuff are really good. My problem is they do kind of the unspoken rule that you're never supposed to do in games, and they used to do it back in the day, but not so much, modern gaming. There's almost a full chapter. There's 5 chapters. There's almost a full chapter where the goal is to just do side stuff. And that's it. And it's hard without getting too deep. you have a network. There's a network in this game, and that's a level up kind of thing. And you go around and you can talk to people and you can beat people up. That'll raise it, but not by a lot. In order to really raise it, you have to do side quests. So there's a part of this game where you need to get your level to level 10. And mine, because I wasn't really doing it, because it's a side thing, mine was like a level 6. So I had to spend about an hour and a half to an hour and 45 minutes doing side things just to get the level to level 10. You had to go battle people at the Coliseum, and then you could continue the main story. So they've done that before, but I've never, and I've, again, like I just played 7 of these things. I have not seen it done this bad. And because it takes up almost a whole chapter and it forces you into doing it, that is just not good. So that's why in the beginning I say, I really think this game actually has the positives of so many other games. Great lead. In fact, maybe one of the better outings that Kiryu has ever had. Great story, main line, the twists, the turns, the epic. The last 2 hours of this game are freaking phenomenal. They are one of the best sequences, if you're into this stuff, that you'll play in a game this entire year. I promise you that. The last 2 hours, like Alan Wake for me, if Alan Wake 2 didn't exist this year, the last 2 hours of this game would be the most fun, emotional roller coaster ride that I've had in a game this entire year. And I stand by that statement, besides, I guess, Alan Wake 2 existing because that entire game is like that. So it's got that. It's got those strengths. But on the weaknesses, the fighting has never been, I would say, like once you play enough of these, the fighting is always generally the same. I do like his new combat style, the one with like the spider web. That is cool. I actually find it not that effective though as the game went on. Like I liked it and it was always like cool to watch, like the animations. But as the game goes, you actually at least I did. I used his like kind of the base version that he always uses in these games. I really like that fighting style, and I just use that because it's able to like break guards and whatnot. It's just easier, I think, for tougher enemies to use his classic one than the new one they introduced for this game. But they're both cool, but the combat is not gonna it's not gonna shock you. It's not gonna be outrageously good. Like I said, the side stuff is good. Actually, the side missions, there are several of them that are really good, but they kind of forced you at times to do them, and I'm just not a big fan of that. But there is plenty to play. But that fluff that is, come on, it's always in it. And there are also cliches. There's definitely cliches where it's like, you could have ended this here, but you chose to not do that. His non-killing rule is really a big problem in this game, story-wise. I mean, it's like it's supposed to be, right? And it's like, man, if you only broke that rule, things would be so much easier for you. But it's got those things. It's got the kind of annoying cliches that the past games all have. It's got some of the fluff, and in some instances, it's got, I think, the worst fluff. Not in terms of quality, but in terms of forcing you into it. It's the worst that I've ever seen in any of these games. And then the fighting is the fighting. It's not bad. It's not amazing because you've done it like, 6, 7, 8, 9. You may have done it more than those times, depending on like Judgment and Lost Judgment, right? So it's got all those things. But also at its best, like those last 2 hours are so good. And it's not just those last 2 hours. The game is good all throughout. Every chapter has either it's like the ending is really good or the middle and ending are really good or maybe the beginning's good. Like, it's always solid throughout. There are some really high peaks, to the story and to the twists. And like I said, I think the acting and the characters are actually really, really good. And it's hard to talk about, the very, very end of the game without spoiling it. So I won't do it, but it's incredible. It's very emotional. I think it's better than the very emotional ending, I think, of 6. If you know the emotional part of the very, very end of 6, that I think did get a lot of people, you're not ready. You're not ready for the ending of this game because I think it's even more emotional. So I really liked it. Overall, I'm very glad I played it. It's not a long, like, if you just do what the game tells you to do for like the story and stuff, you can do this thing in like 10, 12 hours. If you want to do everything, you can get because there's so many side missions to do. There's so many side activities. There's the Coliseum, like the fighting kind of ring. There's plenty to do there. And we've seen numbers from, reviewers that got the game super early that you could get 20, 25, even 30 hours out of it. So if you want actually a pretty short Yakuza game, this absolutely is that, because you can get in and out in 10 hours, get a pretty good like feel of the game. And it's solid. It's very, very solid. And again, to some, I think it's better. And This game is not like the worst of them, by the way, like at all. I really like 6. I don't know where this would fit in my ranking. I really hated 3. I like 4 and 5 were actually pretty okay. 0, I do believe, is still the best. So I don't know. This is probably like a mid Yakuza game, but there's nothing wrong with that because, again, like if you're in this universe, you're in the universe, right? This is a legendary franchise. These are legendary games, and to be like a middle of the road Yakuza game is still extreme. This is actually one of my favorite games of the year. I would actually say that. So there you go. I can't get into spoil. I mean, if you want to know spoilers or how I feel about that, you can always leave me a comment. We can just talk in the comments. So let me know what you think. Make sure you're subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next one.